So we have a question from Bryce. How do I differentiate good coaches from bad ones? Boy, that is a spectrum, isn't it? That is a really good question. How do you find a good authority to work with, and how do you know when you see them? I'm relatively injury prone and could benefit from good coaching, but I'm sure of how to determine if that's what I'll receive. Here's the thing, Bryce, some really, really great coaches are some of the worst human beings I've ever met in my life. I don't want to mention names. They have issues with booze. They have issues with abusing their athletes and clients in every way, shape, and form you can imagine, including sexual predatory stuff. And yet they get people to perform. I mean, it's a conversation we were having this morning about famous comedians who do something that upset people. And then I'm supposed to say, well, I liked this movie, or I thought this comedy routine they did was great. And someone go, well, don't you know what they did? There's a famous singer who was basically my age who became famous for walking backwards like he was on the moon. And one of the people said today, I can't listen to him anymore because of his past. And I'm like, okay. So I hate to bring up that first, but you can also have a very, very a poor athletic coach who turns your life around to the positive. So there's going to be I can almost see a matrix or a spectrum showing up here. But let's get to the idea of what you said, though. Good coaches. Good coaches, I think, now, you can be a horrible person and win a national championship. You can be a horrible person and coach people to the world championships. Okay, let's just put that aside. Good coaches tend, and this is a generalism, but good coaches tend to have a firm base of fundamentals, plus the ability to know that this part of your life, the athletic sport or the training program, is part of your life. It's not your entire life. The good coaches who I've had, Dick Knopmeyer, Ralph Mullen come to mind immediately, but even, certainly Dave Turner, many of my training partners. Coach Mon, I remember, just a small little side issue, but after I graduated, I was his MVP at Utah State, which is a big deal, even though no one seems to care. I represented the school very well, but he would get our grades and then send them to us. And so in the summer of my senior year, when I was trying to figure out what to do for the rest of my life, a little letter came, and inside it was my grades. And Coach talked in a note about how proud he was of my GPA, which was, not bragging, but it was 4.0, just saying. And about how important that was, that I was so balanced in my academics and my athletics. But he also coached me up to an international level discus thrower. But he was also able to understand that my academics were going to be the thing that paid for dinner for the rest of my life and kept a roof over my head. That's just one thing, Bryce. The other thing, Bryce, so that'd be number one, someone who appreciates both sides of things. Number two, there are no secrets. That would be, I don't want to move that into number one, but man, that is, when there are secrets, or the whole nudge, hey, I got to talk to you about something, bring you over, and then they tell you about drugs or this thing they're selling or some secret. That's usually a sign of not a good coach. I think everything should be on the table. Everything's out there. And if it's, I have friends who've told me they've never competed without being on certain kinds of drugs. And I'm like, holy cow, this event you won, the Utah Summer Games, is just not that big a deal. And yet you took drugs to win it. So those would be the two biggest ones. And then three would be the whole area of communications. Does the person have the ability to make things clear to you? To you now. Now, like with my friend Ann, she's a very good coach, but she's also been born deaf. Okay, born deaf. And so I think she's a very good coach because she demands eye contact with her people. And when I watch her coach, I'm usually like, yeah, she does some things that those of us with the 5 sentences miss badly. So it's your ability to communicate. And that's why I like to work with people who are deaf. I also have a client who's blind. I also have, people with certain diseases. Because it forces me to, well, I'm going to use the word empathy. It forces me to have some empathy first. And then it also forces me to improve my communications. Now, the upside of that, Bryce, of course, it's a win-win, because if I can work with someone who's deaf, it makes it that much easier for me to coach someone who isn't deaf, someone who isn't missing a limb or something. That's good. So keep those 3 big thoughts in mind, with the emphasis maybe first on number 1, with the idea of they see beyond the gym or the field. Thank you, Bryce. And if you don't mind, I'm going to think about that a little bit more too. Maybe in a few months, you and I should have a conversation. Thank you.